It is now 1920, and Michigan's population reaches 3,668,412. Times are changing. Somewhere during this time, FBC changes the paint on the building from brown to white. But seriously, 1920 was a bumpy road for First Baptist Church. Pastor Wesley Doucette submitted his letter of resignation in April, but the members refused to accept it. Evidently, there was a national church movement taking place where different Protestant churches were joining the interchurch movement. This organization's primary purpose was to streamline the efforts of missionary functions and eliminate duplicate services. Some members at FBC were in favor of this. However, Pastor Doucette was troubled by this and was unable to convince his church not to participate. In May, the Grand Rapids Baptist Convention put a minister on trial for preaching and teaching about premillennialism. The convention even threatened to confiscate church property. This was such a topic of conversation that Reverend Doucette held a service putting the subject of premillennialism on trial with questions and answers about the subject. These times of theological conflict seemed to affect Pastor Doucette. It was reported in June that year he had a nervous breakdown and no one could find him for a whole day. The members of FBC stood by his side and assisted with his recovery. In July, FBC withdrew from the interchurch movement. In the city of South Haven, tourism was booming with the help of dance halls, casinos, and big band music. People from the surrounding states referred to South Haven as the Atlantic City of the Midwest. In August, the 19th Amendment is ratified, and women throughout the United States were given the right to vote. The world's first four-way traffic signal with red, yellow, and green lights appears in Detroit, and Eva Hamilton becomes the first woman elected to the Michigan Senate. In 1921, Warren G. Harding becomes the 29th President of the United States. An unknown soldier of World War I was buried at the now historic tomb in Arlington National Cemetery. In November, Pastor Doucette resigns from FBC for a new position in Chicago. In December, Reverend W. J. Donnelly accepts a call to FBC. In 1922, local churches posted a list of Sunday school attendance each week in the local paper. It would appear there may have been a competition to see who would be listed in the top position. Overseas, Benito Mussolini marches on Rome and forms a fascist government. In October, at an all-member meeting, FBC adopted a new charter consisting of a constitution, a confession of faith, and other formal stands on spiritual matters. They also took up a collection each Sunday in November for the needy in Russia. In 1923, during February, revival meetings start to take place in and around the South Haven area. Reverend Donnelly became an active participant. In March, Reverend Donnelly submitted his resignation to become fully involved in the revival ministry. He still preached each Sunday at FBC while the search for his replacement took place. On a broader scale, Michigan starts to operate state-run ferries at the Straits of Mackinac on July 31st, making the upper and lower peninsulas more accessible. This period is when George Gershwin writes Rhapsody in Blue, and Bessie Smith, known as the Empress of the Blues, makes her first recording. Unfortunately, it is also during this time that there is a widespread Ku Klux Klan violence taking place across the United States. In August, President Harding dies from pneumonia. Vice President Calvin Coolidge becomes the 30th U.S. President. On August 21st, FBC meets to select Reverend J. Little from Battle Creek, who had been filling in for several Sunday services. On August 27th, Reverend Little preaches his first sermon as FBC's pastor. In 1924, in Russia, Vladimir Lenin dies. Joseph Stalin wins the ensuing power struggle, and Stalin will rule as Soviet dictator until his death in 1953. On the state front, this is also the year that the Michigan High School Athletic Association is organized. In 1925, Nazi Party leader Adolf Hitler publishes Volume 1, Mein Kampf, his autobiographical manifesto. In Tennessee, John T. Scopes is convicted and fined for teaching evolution in a public school. Scopes took the matter to court. This action was to become known as the Scopes Monkey Trial. His sentence was set aside. On the state scene, Michigan's first gasoline tax is adopted. In 1926, a general strike in Britain brings the nation's activities to a standstill. In 1927, the German economy collapses. There is a socialists' riot in Vienna, and Leon Trotsky is expelled from the Russian Communist Party. Also on the world scene, a Belgian Catholic priest, mathematician, astronomer, and professor of physics proposes the Big Bang Theory, or the theory of an expanding universe. Charles A. Lindbergh completes his first solo flight from New York to Paris, making him a national hero. In sports, Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs in the season, a record that would stand for the next 34 years. The Jazz Singer is the first talkie motion picture featuring Al Jolson. Back home, for the December annual business meeting, FBC comes up with a streamlined solution that was designed to have more attendees enjoy the process. In 1928, Alexander Fleming discovers penicillin. In July, 100 attended a 2-week-long Bible school hosted by FBC. In 1929, Herbert Hoover is the 31st U.S. president elected to office. Close to home, the famous St. Valentine's Day Gangland Massacre in Chicago takes place. It is thought that this event put additional public pressure on law enforcement to clamp down on organized crime. In Michigan, the Ambassador Bridge is opened between Detroit and Windsor. On the national scene, the stock market crash takes place on Wall Street, which in turn is the beginning of the Great Depression. Thousands of unemployed stand in soup lines. People uprooted and migrated to different parts of the country looking for work. Back home, members of First Baptist Church worship, pray, and help others, living out their faith, not knowing what the future will bring.